When my wedding ring hit the pawnshop counter, it did not just shine under the ugly fluorescent lights. It sounded like the last piece of my old life breaking in half. My name is Caleb Wright. I am a single dad, and that ring was the only thing I had left from the time when I still believed my life made sense. Outside, the November rain hammered the West Side Pawn sign like it wanted to rip it off the wall. I stood under that sign for 3 full minutes, water soaking through my cheap secondhand jacket, trying to convince myself there was another way. There was not. That morning, my 6-year-old daughter, Emma, had woken up coughing again. It was the deep, rattling kind of cough that shook her whole body and left her eyes wet from the effort of breathing. 6 months earlier, the pediatrician had been clear. The asthma meds were not optional. The specialist was not optional. Keeping the apartment warm was not optional. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I did not need to look to know what it was. Third notice from the utility company. Disconnect scheduled for Friday. Today was Wednesday. I pulled the ring from my pocket and held it up toward the gray light. Simple white gold band, worn thin from 5 years of marriage and 2 years of widowhood. Sarah had slid it onto my finger in a tiny courthouse ceremony. We had laughed the whole time because we were broke and happy and stupidly sure that love would be enough. Cancer did not care. 16 months after that day, she was gone, and the debts she left behind grew faster than anything I could pay down. Medical bills, rent, food, inhalers for Emma. In the end, love did not stop the numbers. The ring caught the light one last time, then I pushed open the door. The shop smelled like dust, old leather, and desperation. Guitars with slack strings hung on one wall. Glass cases held things people had once been proud to buy and now were ashamed to sell. Watches, necklaces, cameras, stories of slow collapse under cheap fluorescent bulbs. A muted basketball game played on a TV in the corner. Behind the counter stood a man with heavy eyelids and a permanent frown. He glanced up from his phone. "Help you?" His voice was rough, like it had been dragged over gravel. "Yeah," I said. My shoes squeaked on cracked linoleum as I walked to the counter. "I need to sell something." "Don't we all?" He slid his phone aside. "What have you got?" I set the ring down between us. It looked small and lonely on the scratched glass. He picked it up without care and grabbed a jeweler's loop from under the register. He turned the band, scraped the inside with his thumbnail, then dropped it on a little electronic scale. White gold, pretty worn. 3.2 grams. He punched some numbers into an old calculator. "I'll give you 45. The number hit me like a punch straight to the chest. I had known it would be low. I had checked gold prices online. But hearing it out loud made the room feel tighter. $45 would not cover the electric bill. It would not pay for Emma's meds. It would barely feed us for a week. "It's worth more than that," I said. My voice sounded small, even to me. "To you, maybe." He shrugged. "To me, it's scrap. Take it or leave it." I stared at the ring. I saw Sarah's fingers sliding it onto my hand the day we said vows in front of a bored judge. I saw her in the hospital bed, bones too sharp under thin skin. I heard her laugh, the last real one before the pain swallowed it. I swallowed hard. "I'll take it." Smart man. He pulled out a form, ID and thumbprint. While I dug my worn wallet from my pocket, I heard the bell above the door ring behind me. I did not turn. I did not care who else was selling pieces of their life today. But the pawnshop owner's tone changed. "Mr. Hale," he said, his voice suddenly careful. "Didn't expect you till later." My meeting finished early. The new voice was calm and smooth. The kind of voice that had never had to shout to be heard. "I'll wait." I pressed my thumb onto the ink pad, then onto the form. Caleb Wright, age 36, Riverside Apartments. The place where the heat barely worked and the playground rusted. The owner counted out $45 in small bills, like he was doing me a big favor. "There you go. Pleasure doing business." Quote. I took the money and looked at the ring one last time. "Actually," he said, his tone turning greasy, "looking again, the wear's pretty bad. Market's down, too. I'm thinking 40 is more fair." I stared at him. You already agreed to 45. My shop, my rules. He gave me a wide smile with no warmth in it. You can take 40 or take your ring and walk. Your choice. It was $5. 5 stupid dollars. But to me, it was 2 bus rides. Half a prescription. 2 days of groceries if I was careful. Anger burned in my throat. I wanted to shout. I also wanted to keep the lights on. Fine. I peeled a 5 from the stack and set it on the counter. He snatched it with a little smirk. See? Everything works out. I turned toward the door, the $40 in my pocket feeling lighter than air. I was 2 steps away when the calm voice behind me spoke. Mr. Pike. The owner looked up fast. Yes, Mr. Hale. That transaction I just watched, the man said. His words were slow and exact. What was the agreed price? 45, the owner said carefully. And what did you pay? We renegotiated. No, just that one word, firm, final. You agreed to terms, then changed them when you believed the other party had no recourse. That is not negotiation. That is theft. I turned. The man standing by the display of old watches looked like he belonged in a different world. Maybe 60. Steel gray hair cut sharp. Charcoal overcoat that probably cost more than my rent. Pale blue eyes, cold and clear, studying the room like a report he did not like. Give him his $5, the man said. The owner pulled the bill from his pocket and set it on the counter. Of course, my mistake. I walked back, picked up the 5, and met the older man's eyes. Thank you, I said. He nodded once. Outside, the rain had softened to a mist. I stood under the awning, feeling the sad, little stack of cash in my hand and trying to do impossible math. $45 against a wall of bills that never stopped coming. My phone buzzed again, a reminder about Emma's specialist appointment tomorrow. The appointment I could not afford. The door opened behind me. Excuse me. I turned. The older man stood there, rain spotting his coat. I'm sorry, I said. If I was in your way, I can. You did nothing wrong, he said. He moved under the awning beside me. I wanted to ask you something. I waited. That ring meant something to you, he said. Your face told me that much. Why did you sell it without arguing over the price? My wife gave it to me, I said. She died 2 years ago. I am sorry for your loss. His voice softened just a little. Still, most people would have fought harder. Pride alone would have pushed them. Pride doesn't keep the lights on, I said. Arguing with that man would not change the number. I don't have time or energy to waste. He studied me for a moment. What do you do for work, mister? Right, I said. Caleb Wright. Right now I take whatever temp jobs I can get. Day labor. Warehouse shifts. Before that, I was an aerospace engineer at Morrison Dynamics. Got laid off 3 years ago. And nothing in your field since? I shook my head. Companies want younger, cheaper, and less complicated. Single dad, employment gap, medical debt. I am not a safe bet on paper. You are desperate, he said. I'm selling my wedding ring for $45, I said. What do you think? Quote. For the first time, something like a smile touched his mouth. I think you are honest. That is not common. He reached into his coat and pulled out a card. My name is Richard Hale. I own Hale Industries. Among other things, we have a defense and aerospace division. Call this number tomorrow after 9. Ask for Margaret in HR. She will expect your call. I took the card. The paper was thick, expensive. Hale Industries. Richard A. Hale, CEO. I've sent out hundreds of applications, I said. No one wants an engineer who has been out of the field for 3 years. Perhaps they are asking the wrong questions. His eyes were steady on mine. I saw a man accept an unfair deal without begging or blaming anyone. When he was cheated, he didn't break. He adjusted. That kind of character is what I look for. Quote, with respect, sir, I said, character doesn't show up on a resume. No, he said. It shows up on days like this. Before I could answer, he nodded once, buttoned his coat, and walked away into the thinning rain. I stood there with his card in my hand, my heart beating too fast. People like him did not hand out jobs at pawn shops. Billionaires did not step into $5 arguments for strangers. This had to be a mistake, or a joke, or pity. But it was still a number, still a chance. And chances were something I could not afford to ignore. I put the card carefully in my wallet and started the long walk home. The Riverside apartments looked worse in the rain. Beige paint streaked with mold, broken cars on blocks near the dumpster, a parking lot full of potholes. I took the stairs to the 3rd floor, stepping around the spots where the railing shook. Apartment 3C. I unlocked the door quietly. The living room was dim, lit only by the small kitchen nightlight. The air felt cold, even with the space heater buzzing. "Daddy," quote. Emma stood in the bedroom doorway, clutching her stuffed elephant. Her winter pajamas hung a little loose on her thin frame. Her dark hair was messy. Her gray eyes, my eyes, were worried. "Hey, baby girl," I said, "what are you doing up?" "I couldn't sleep," she said. Mrs. Chen was watching me, but she had to go home. She started to cough, that rough, scraping sound that scared me every time. I crossed the room in 3 steps and scooped her up. She felt too light in my arms. "Are we going to be okay, Daddy?" she asked, her voice small against my shoulder. The question stabbed straight through me. She asked it a lot now. "Yes," I said, because there was no other answer I could give her. "We're going to be okay. I promise." "How do you know?" she whispered. "Because I have to make it true," I thought. "Because the alternative is not an option. Because we've gotten through everything else," I said instead. "And we'll get through this too. Together," quote. I tucked her into her little bed under 3 blankets, kissed her forehead, and waited until her breathing finally settled into a soft, steady rhythm. Then I went back to the kitchen, spread the $45 on the counter, and opened my old laptop. I checked my bank balance, looked at the electric bill, the pharmacy prices, the rent. The numbers still did not work. My eyes drifted to the business card sitting next to the keyboard. Hale Industries. Margaret. Call after 9. I picked it up and turned it between my fingers. It felt like holding something fragile. Hope. I set it down carefully and stared at it until the screensaver on my laptop kicked in. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow I would find out if that $5 moment outside a pawn shop was nothing at all, or the start of the only second chance I had left. The next morning, gray light slid through the thin curtains like it was tired too. Emma was already at the small kitchen table, her legs swinging, eating off-brand cereal from a chipped bowl. A library book about dolphins lay open beside her. She coughed twice while reading. "Morning, sweetheart," I said, trying to sound normal. "Morning, Daddy. Is today the doctor day?" "Yeah, this afternoon." I started the old coffee maker. It hissed like it might die any second. "But first I have to make an important phone call." "About a job, maybe?" she asked, watching me with those serious gray eyes. "We'll see." I looked at the clock, 8:47. The business card sat on the counter where I left it the night before. Hale Industries. Call. After 9 a.m. I picked up my phone. My hand surprised me by being steady. At 9:03, I dialed. "Hale Industries. How may I direct your call?" The receptionist's voice was smooth and professional. "Hi, Margaret Chen, please. Extension?" I checked the back of the card. 2,847. "One moment, sir." Classical music came on, the kind that sounds like a battle and a wedding at the same time. I paced our tiny kitchen while Emma watched me, spoon frozen halfway to her mouth. "This is Margaret," a woman's voice said. "Ms. Chen," I said. "My name is Caleb Wright. Mr. Hale told me to call you this morning." "Mr. Wright," she said at once. "Yes, Mr. Hale briefed me last night. Thank you for calling. Can you come in today for an interview?" My heart jumped. "I have a doctor's appointment with my daughter at 2. I could come after. Maybe 3:30? 3:30 works perfectly. Do you know where our main building is?" Quote. "I can look it up." "Good. Come to the main building, 5th floor. Security will direct you." She paused. "Mr. Wright, I should tell you, Mr. Hale does not make personal referrals often. When he does, we take them very seriously. I understand, I said. Thank you. When I hung up, my hand actually shook. Did you get it? Emma asked. I got an interview, I said. That's not the same as a job, but it's close. Close is good, Emma said, like a little grown-up. Closer than before. She was right. We left early for the doctor. I bundled her in her winter coat even though it was only early November. I could not risk her getting worse. The pulmonologist's office was 20 minutes away in a shiny medical plaza that looked too clean for people who were hurting. I checked us in, and the receptionist typed our name into the system. Her face changed. I knew that look. Mr. Wright, she said, I'm showing an outstanding balance of $460 on your account. I had known this was coming, but hearing the number still hit hard. I'm working on it, I said. I pulled out my thin wallet. I can make a payment today. I took out a 20, almost half of the pawn shop money. Her mouth tightened. Our policy requires a minimum payment of $100 on balances over $300. I don't have $100, I said. I kept my voice low so Emma would not hear. I have 20. My daughter has asthma. She's been coughing for days. She needs to see the doctor. I understand, Mr. Wright, but our policy— Your policy, I said, trying to keep my anger down, is going to send a 6-year-old home without care. I can give you information for a free clinic on 7th Street, she said. They might be able to help. Might. I stared at her for a long second. Arguing more would not change anything. The policy was the wall she hid behind. Thank you for your time, I said finally. In the parking lot, Emma looked up at me as I buckled her in. I don't get to see the doctor, she said. Not today, baby. Because of money. I did not pretend she was wrong. I just closed my eyes for a second, then started the engine. It's complicated, I said. It's always about money, she whispered. She was right again. I dropped her back with Mrs. Chen from down the hall. Mrs. Chen promised to keep her inside and warm. In return, I promised to fix her leaky kitchen faucet this weekend. Everything was trade now. Time for help. Work for childcare. Then I drove across town to a different world. Hale Industries. Main building rose from the business district like it belonged to another planet. Glass and steel. Marble in the lobby. People in suits who smelled like expensive cologne and never worried about shutoff notices. I stood in the revolving door for a second, wiping my hands on my thrift store slacks. My tie was old and my jacket had a small stain near the cuff I couldn't scrub out. It would have to do. The receptionist smiled in a way that looked practiced. Welcome to Hale Industries. How can I help you? I have an appointment with Margaret Chen at 3:30, I said. Name's Caleb Wright. She checked her screen. Yes, Mr. Wright. 5th floor. You can take the elevator on the right. The elevator ride felt like being lifted out of my own life. Each ding pulled me further from Riverside Apartments, from mold on walls and broken heaters. The 5th floor was quieter, carpet soft under my shoes. Signs led to human resources. I followed them to a glass-walled office where a woman in her 50s sat at a desk, reading something on a screen. Mr. Wright, she said as soon as she saw me. Come in. I stepped in and closed the door behind me. I'm Margaret Chen, she said, standing to shake my hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes sharp but kind. Family photos lined one shelf, diplomas on the wall. She didn't look like someone who enjoyed wasting time. Thank you for seeing me, I said. Of course, please sit. I sat. She opened a folder. I pulled your resume from our system. You've applied for several engineering roles with us over the past year. I swallowed. Yes, ma'am. Never heard back. Our automated filter probably screened you out because of the employment gap, she said. That's a known flaw in the system. It cannot read context. Her eyes met mine. Let's talk about that gap. I took a breath. I had told this story before to other interviewers and watched their interest vanish each time. I worked at Morrison Dynamics for 8 years, I said. Aerospace engineer. Focused on UAV navigation. 3 years ago, they had big layoffs. I was part of the cut. I see, she said quietly. And your wife? I stared at my hands. She was diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer around the same time. She died 6 months later. I am very sorry, Margaret said. Her voice held real feeling, not just a script. I had a toddler, I said, and medical bills. I took any work I could find. Temp jobs, day labor, warehouse shifts. Nothing in my field I tried. No one wanted an engineer with a 3-year gap and a 6-year-old kid. Understandable, she said softly. Not the company's decisions, the situation. She closed the folder and folded her hands. Mr. Hale said he met you in a pawn shop yesterday. He mentioned you were selling a wedding ring. May I ask why? I met her eyes. If this was going to kill the chance, fine. I was tired of hiding. My daughter needs asthma meds, I said. And our power's about to be cut off. The ring was the only thing left worth money. She held my gaze for a long moment. Not pity, not shock, something like respect. You did not ask Mr. Pike for more, she said. You did not try to make him feel sorry for you. It would not have changed the price, I said. Pride doesn't pay bills. Margaret nodded slowly. All right, she said. I will be direct with you, Mr. Wright. We have some entry-level engineering roles open. They pay around $65,000 a year. With your gap, that's where our system would normally place you. $65,000. To a man with $45 in his pocket, it sounded like a dream. But, she went on, Mr. Hale suggested something different. She pulled out another sheet of paper and slid it toward me. We have a senior engineer position in our aerospace division. Advanced propulsion systems. It normally pays $95,000 a year. Because of your time out of the field, Mr. Hale is offering a 3-month probation contract first. During that time, you'd be paid at a rate equal to $75,000 a year. If your performance is strong, the position converts to permanent at the full salary with benefits. I stared at the numbers. They blurred. 3 months at more money than I had seen in 2 years. A chance at almost 6 figures and full health insurance. What's the catch? I asked. The catch, Margaret said, is that it is not charity. You would be working on sensitive defense projects. The work is demanding. Expectations are high. You will be watched closely. If you cannot keep up, we end the contract in part ways. She leaned forward slightly. Mr. Hale believes you have the character and ability for this. I do not ignore his instincts, but it has to be the right fit for you too. When would I start? I heard my own voice and barely recognized it. Background check and security forms can be rushed, she said, if everything clears tomorrow. Tomorrow I could walk into a real engineering job. Tomorrow I could stop selling pieces of my old life to keep the lights on. I thought of Emma, her small body shaking with coughs. The way she asked, "Are we going to be okay?" Like she already knew the answer might be no. I'm available, I said. My throat felt tight. I'll take it. Margaret smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Good, she said. She stood and offered her hand again. Welcome to Hale Industries, Mr. Wright. When I shook it, it felt like my whole life shifted an inch to the right. Off the edge of the cliff I had been standing on for 3 years. I walked out of that glass building with a contract in my pocket, $45 in my wallet, and something I had not felt in a long time burning in my chest. Hope. Tomorrow I was going to find out if I still remembered how to be the man I used to be, and if one stranger's faith in me was about to change everything. Walking into Hale Industries as an employee the next morning felt like walking onto another planet. I dropped Emma at school first. She hugged me so tight my ribs hurt. Good luck, Daddy, she said into my shirt. Get the job forever. I'll try, I said. Be brave today, okay? I'm always brave, she said. You be brave, too. At the parking garage, the security guard checked my name on a list and handed me a temporary badge. It felt heavier than it should have on the lanyard around my neck. 5th floor again. Same hallway, but now a different door. Aerospace division, the sign said. Inside, a man in his mid-40s with sharp eyes and rimless glasses stood waiting with 2 other people. Caleb Wright? He asked. Yes, sir. Quote, I'm David Chen, he said, shaking my hand. Head of Aerospace. This is Jennifer Reeves, Senior Systems Engineer, and Marcus Hall, Lead Propulsion Specialist. Jennifer looked early 30s, dark hair pulled back, confident like she'd fought hard for her place and won. Marcus was older, late 50s maybe, with graying hair and the tired face of someone who had spent half his life in test facilities. "Let's be direct," Chen said. "You were a strong engineer at Morrison Dynamics. Then, 3 years out of the field. This work moves fast. Why should I believe you can still keep up?" He was not being rude. He was stating facts. I could have tried to sell him a story. Instead, I went with the only thing I still trusted. "I don't know if I can keep up yet," I said. "That's the truth. But I know how to think about systems. That doesn't expire. And I can promise I will work harder than anyone else in this room to prove I belong here." Jennifer's eyebrow lifted. Marcus made a small note on his tablet. "We'll see," Chen said. "Jennifer, get him up to speed on the hybrid propulsion project. Marcus, I want a technical assessment from you by the end of the week." He turned back to me. 3 months, Mr. Wright. Impress me and you stay. Fail and you go. Simple." "Yes, sir." Jennifer led me into the main workspace. It was open, bright, filled with whiteboards covered in equations and monitors showing 3D models. It buzzed with quiet, focused energy. "Welcome to the circus," she said. "Your desk is over there by the window. Computer's set up. Email login in your inbox. First assignment, read 6 months of work on our hybrid thrust vectoring system and try to break it." "Try to break it?" I asked. "If you can't find the problems, the Pentagon will," she said, "and they're less nice about it." I sat down and opened the shared folders. For hours I read design documents, simulation reports, test notes. The hybrid propulsion system was wild. Traditional jet thrust combined with an experimental electromagnetic acceleration stage. On paper, it could double the range of a fighter and cut fuel use almost in half. On paper is the key phrase. After a while, my brain slid back into a mode I had not felt in years. Systems thinking. Where does heat go? Where does stress build? What happens when life refuses to follow the neat lines of a model? One diagram kept pulling my eye. The transition between normal thrust and hybrid mode. High speed, high load, huge heat spike in a small amount of time. The cooling system looked fine at first glance, but the assumptions did not. Around noon, Marcus walked over, coffee in hand. "How's it going?" he asked. "The system is impressive," I said, "but I have questions about thermal management and rapid transition." He frowned. "We ran all the thermal sims." They were clean. "What were your transition parameters?" I asked. 30-second window? "Yes, standard combat switch." "What about 10 seconds? Or 5-second emergency abort?" I asked. "If a pilot panics or a system fails and they slam it back fast, you might hit cascade temps before the coolant kicks in." Quote. He stared at the screen while I pulled up the diagram and pointed. "Here," I said, "this pathway assumes gradual heat build. But this module will spike hard if you smash from one mode to the other. If there's no preemptive cooling, you're gambling. Nothing goes wrong." He put his coffee down and sat. "Run the 10-second and 5-second sims," he said. "Let's see." For the next hour, we built new simulations. Different assumptions, emergency scenarios. We watched the graphs climb on the screen. At 30 seconds, heat levels stayed in the safe zone. At 10 seconds, they kissed the red line. At 5 seconds, they blew right through it. "Damn," Marcus whispered. Jennifer showed up behind us sometime during the second run. "What are we looking at?" she asked. "Worst case," Marcus said, "and he's right." He nodded toward me. Jennifer folded her arms and studied the data. "If the system cooks itself in an emergency, the cost is not just money." "Exactly," I said. David Chen appeared at my desk a few minutes later. "Explain," he said. I walked him through what we did, the assumptions, the new sims, where the failure lived. "If I'm right," I said, "you need a redundant cooling loop that kicks in before transition when certain thresholds are hit. It adds weight and complexity and time to the schedule, but it keeps planes from falling out of the sky." Silence. I realized I had just told the division head he needed to slow a major project on my first day. Chen looked at the graphs. Then at Marcus. Then at me. 3 weeks, he said. Minimum, Marcus said. Maybe 4 if we run into integration issues. That pushes us closer to the Pentagon review, Jennifer added. Chen exhaled once through his nose. Do it, he said. Redesign the cooling system. Jennifer, update the timeline. Tell the client we found a critical safety concern. We're fixing it. He stared at me for a second longer. Good catch, Mr. Wright, he said. That's why you're here. After he walked away, my legs felt weak. Well, Jennifer said, that was either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both, I said. She smiled. Either way, you were right. That helps. Quote. That night, I picked Emma up from the neighbor and drove straight to the pharmacy. Can I help you? The pharmacist asked. I need to refill my daughter's asthma prescriptions, I said. All of them. Saying all felt strange. For months I had been rationing. Choosing one inhaler but not the second. Stretching doses. Cutting pills in half. She typed into her computer. That will be $112, Mr. Wright. Before, that number would have sent me into panic. Now I pulled out my bank card and paid. My hand shook a little, but not from fear. In the car, Emma held the small white bag like it was treasure. Does this mean I can breathe better? She asked. That's the plan, I said. We're going to do this right now. And can we turn the heat up? She asked. Just a little? We can turn the heat up, I said. More than a little. Her smile in the rearview mirror almost made me cry. The first paycheck hit my account 2.5 weeks later. Even at the probation rate, the number made my head spin. After taxes, it was more money in one deposit than I had earned in the last 4 months combined. I paid the electric bill. The water bill. Put down a chunk on past due medical. Bought real groceries. Not junk, not cheap ramen, real food. Then, because I could, I opened the thermostat in our apartment and set it to a number that would have scared me before. Emma walked out of her room wearing 1 pair of socks instead of 2. It's warm, she said, amazed. Yeah, I said, it is. She walked over and hugged me. I like this job, she said. Me too, kiddo. 2 weeks after that, David Chen called me into his office. My stomach dropped as soon as his assistant said, he wants to see you. I sat across from his desk, hands on my knees. Relax, he said. You're not in trouble. That's good to know, I said. I gave Mr. Hale my first full report on you this morning, Chen said. He asked for honesty. I gave it to him. You're one of the strongest systems engineers I've worked with in 15 years. You see failure before it happens. You integrate fast. The team respects you. Quote. Heat climbed into my face. Thank you, I said. He slid a folder across the desk. There's no point in pretending we need 3 months to make a decision, he said. As of today, your position is permanent. Full salary, full benefits, health coverage, retirement, the works. The numbers on the contract made my chest hurt. $95,000 a year, full medical, paid leave. For what it's worth, Chen added, I was against this at first. I did not think someone could jump back in after 3 years away. I was wrong. Don't make me regret saying that out loud. I'll do my best, I said. That night, after Emma fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the contract and the login screen for my online bank. For the first time in years, there was money there. Enough to pay everything that mattered. Enough to look beyond this month. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, I answered. Mr. Wright, the familiar calm voice said. This is Richard Hale. I sat a little straighter in my cheap chair. Yes, sir. Quote, David tells me you have exceeded expectations, he said. You prevented a serious design flaw, integrated well, and impressed my most demanding people. I'm just doing the job, I said. No, he said. You are doing more than that. But we will come back to that later. For now, there is unfinished business from the day we met. My eyes went to my bare left hand, the space where the ring used to be. Mr. Hale, I said quietly, I appreciate everything you've done, but I can't accept any more help. You already sold the ring, he said, to Mr. Pike. I bought it from him. What I do with my property is my decision. My throat tightened. You bought it, I said. Some things should not stay in pawn shops, he said. Tomorrow, go back to West Side Pawn. Mr. Pike has a package for you. Consider it a loan if that makes it easier. When you are on your feet, you can pay me back if you wish. Sir, The line clicked. He had already hung up. The next afternoon, on my way home from work, I parked outside West Side Pawn. The neon sign still flickered. The rain was gone, but the building looked as tired as always. Inside, the air smelled the same. Dust and defeat. Vernon Pike looked up from his phone. His face changed when he recognized me. Help you? He said. No warmth, but less arrogance than last time. I'm here to pick something up, I said. You have a package for me. From Mr. Hale. His jaw tightened. For a second I thought he would argue. Then he grunted and walked into the back. When he came out, he held a small box. He set it on the counter. He paid $400 for it, Vernon said. His voice was flatter now. Said it was worth more than I gave you. My fingers shook a little as I opened the box. Inside, on a square of dark velvet, lay my wedding ring. The same thin, white, gold band. The same tiny scratch near the inside curve where Sarah had dropped it once and laughed for 5 minutes. I picked it up and slid it onto my finger. It fit like it had never left. He was right, I said. Vernon said nothing. Outside, the sun was setting, throwing warm light across the cracked windows. I stood on the sidewalk where everything had started, ring back on my hand, job in my pocket, my daughter breathing easier at home. One man's question outside this shop had changed my life. Now, with the ring's familiar weight anchoring me, I felt something new settle inside my chest. This was not just about me surviving anymore. For the first time, I started to wonder how many other people were stuck where I had been, and what I would do, now that I finally had my own second chance, to help them climb out too. A few months after I got my ring back, my life looked like someone else's. Emma's cough was under control. Our electric bill was paid on time. I caught myself turning the thermostat up without flinching. At work, I was no longer the guy on probation. I was just Caleb, the systems guy people called when something looked impossible. One afternoon, David Chen called me into his office again. I still felt a twist of nerves every time. Relax, he said. You're safe this time. He gestured for me to sit. You know why your second chance worked, he said. You had skills, yes, but you also had something else. You did not fold when life hit you. You adapted. He tapped his pen on the desk. We have a problem here, Caleb. People like you never even get in the door. Our system throws them away before a human even sees their name. I knew that pain too well. Our hiring filters reject anyone with a big gap, he went on. Caregivers, people who were sick, people knocked out by layoffs. We complain about talent shortage, but we are the ones closing the door. He leaned forward. Mr. Hale wants to try something new, a program for people like you. People the system missed. He wants you to help build it. Me, the guy who had sold his wedding ring. What would I do exactly, I asked. Stay in engineering, he said, but also build a side track, a second chance track, new way to find and test candidates who were filtered out. You know what that feels like from the inside. We don't. It sounded crazy. It also sounded exactly like what my life had been pushing me toward. I'll do it, I said, but it can't be pity hires. It has to be real. They earn it. That's why we want you, Chen said. No charity, real work. The next months were some of the hardest and best of my life. In the mornings, I was an engineer, buried in propulsion problems. In the afternoons, I was something else. I read resumes with gaps that looked like mine. 8 months caring for a dying parent. 2 years out with cancer. 5 years of contract work after an industry crash. The kind of stories that never make it past a filter. I did not ask, why were you out of work, like a trap? I asked, tell me about the hardest problem you ever solved when life was falling apart. Some broke down crying. Some told me stories that made my own look small. But under all of that, I watched how their minds worked, how they handled pressure, how they thought about systems. We hired 12 people in the first round. Veterans, caregivers, A woman who had left engineering for years to raise kids. A guy laid off in a merger who could never get back in. They worked like the building was on fire and we were the only exit. Our numbers were insane. Performance higher, retention higher, costs lower. It felt like we had found buried treasure. People the world had decided were over, who still had 10 good years in them. Then HR came for it. One morning I got an invite to a board meeting. Topic: Second Chance Initiative. My program. In the big glass boardroom, I laid out everything. The hire numbers, the performance charts, the cost savings. The human stories I had to keep short so I would not choke up. When I finished, our HR head, a man named Kellerman, stood up. His slides were about risk, historical data about employment gaps and turnover, charts that said, "This is dangerous." Our job is to protect the company, he said. We cannot throw away proven systems for feel-good stories. The word stories hit like a slap. I wanted to shout that Emma's warm apartment was not a story, that breathing without fear was not a story. Instead, I kept my voice steady. Our stories are saving you money, I said. Our people are outperforming your safe hires. We have proof. Quote, board members asked questions. Some listened with open minds, some with eyes that said their decisions were already made. In the end, they voted 5 in favor of continuing the program, 7 against. Just like that, it was done. They would keep the people we'd already hired, but there would be no more second chance track at Hale Industries. I walked out of that room feeling like I had been punched in the lungs. That night, Emma and I ate dinner at our small table in the new apartment I had just leased for us. 2 bedrooms, real heat, a working bathtub. You're quiet, she said, picking at her chicken. Rough day, I said. Work? Yeah. The people you were helping, she asked. The ones with no chances. What happened? I swallowed. The company decided not to keep the program, I said. They think it's too risky. But it was working, she said. You said it was working. It was, I said. Sometimes that's still not enough. She thought for a long moment, her little forehead creasing. Are you going to stop trying? She asked. That question cut deeper than anything the board had thrown at me. I thought about the 12 people we had hired, about the others I had interviewed but never got to bring in, about my own file that would have stayed buried forever if not for one man at a pawn shop. No, I said. I'm not going to stop. Good, she said softly. Mommy wouldn't stop either. She was right. Sarah had fought her cancer even when the doctors started using words like manage instead of cure. Not because she thought she could beat it, but because that's who she was. A week later, another door opened. Jennifer stopped by my office carrying 2 coffees. Venture guys called me, she said. New aerospace startup. Apex Dynamics. They want me as chief engineer. They also asked if I know anyone who can build a talent system from scratch. She set 1 coffee on my desk. I told them about you, she said. My first reaction was fear. We had just gotten stable. New apartment, steady paycheck, good insurance. Walking away felt insane. It's risky, I said. Emma and I just climbed out of a hole. I don't want to jump into another. It is risky, she said, but you'd get to build your second chance system the right way. No old rules, no filters, clean slate. That night, I told Emma the truth. There's a new company that wants me, I said. It's small, a startup. It could fail, but they'd let me help people the way I tried to help them here, from day 1. Will we lose the apartment? She asked. Not if it works, I said. If it fails, I don't know yet. I'd find something. I always will. But it would be hard. She stared at me with eyes too wise for her age. Are you happy at your job now? She asked. I opened my mouth to say yes. Then I closed it. I'm grateful, I said. But I'm not happy. Not the way I could be. They let me help a few people, then told me to stop. She nodded slowly. Then I think you should go, she said. Mommy said you should do work that matters. We can be brave again. Sometimes kids are braver than adults. The next day I went to see Mr. Hale. I'm leaving, I said. I did not dance around it. He listened while I explained the startup, the offer, the risk. I could offer you more money to stay, he said. More power, maybe a smaller version of the program inside one division. But I cannot give you what you really want. My board made that clear. I know, I said. You already did more for me than anyone had a right to. You saved my life. But I think this is the next right step. He looked at me for a long moment. When I saw you in that pawn shop, he said, I saw a man who refused to break. I made a small investment in that. You proved I was right. He opened a drawer and took out a small wooden box. Before you go, he said, take this. Inside was a simple silver watch. On the back, engraved words. For recognizing worth when others couldn't. My throat closed up. I can't. You can, he said. It is not a reward. It's a reminder. This is your work now. Seeing value where others only see risk. He shook my hand. Go build it your way, he said. And when you make something big enough, call me. I like being proved right. Quote, Apex Dynamics did not look like much at first. Cheap desks, a warehouse space with exposed brick, whiteboards leaning against walls, a fridge full of discount soda. But the people were sharp, hungry, and tired of hearing no from bigger companies. Michael Torres, the founder, gave me the same kind of clear-eyed look Hale had given me outside the pawn shop. Here's the deal, he said. I want the best people. I don't care what their resumes look like. Build me a system that finds them, your way. So I did. I called the people who had reached out after hearing whispers about the program at Hale. I dug through old applications. I sat across from veterans, caregivers, parents who had stepped out of the workforce and been punished for it. I did not care how many gaps they had. I cared how they thought when I put a hard problem in front of them. I cared what they did when life hit hard. We hired 10 people, then 20, then more. We built. We tested. We slept too little and cared too much. A year later, an article in a tech magazine called us the Second Chance Company. Quote, it told my story, the ring, the pawn shop, the billionaire who stepped in, the program that died, the startup that picked it up again. The article went viral in our little world. My phone did not stop buzzing. HR leaders, nonprofits, strangers who just wanted to say, thank you. I thought I was the only one. One of the calls was from Kellerman. I was wrong, he said. The words sounded like they hurt his throat. Your numbers at Apex show your model works. We're reinstating a version of the program at Hale. Different name, smaller start, but same idea. We'd like you to consult. The petty part of me wanted to hang up. The better part remembered what this was about. Send me the details, I said. If it helps more people, I'm in. 2 years after I walked into that pawn shop, Apex got an offer from Barrett Aerospace, a giant in the industry. They wanted to buy us. Our tech. Our team. They also wanted our talent system. The deal would make me rich in a way that did not feel real. Enough money to pay off every debt. Fund Emma's future, and never worry about a shut-off notice again. But what mattered most to me was this. They wanted to use our second chance model across their whole company. Tens of thousands of employees. I'll stay, I told them, but on one condition. I control talent. I report to the top, and we bring our people with us. No one gets left behind. They agreed. That night, Emma and I sat on the floor of the house I'd never thought we'd have. 3 bedrooms. A yard. Her drawings all over the fridge. Does this mean we're rich? She asked. It means we're safe, I said, for a long time. She smiled. I liked you when we were poor, she said, but this is better. We laughed until we cried. Later, alone in my office, I made another decision. I set aside $2 million to start the Second Chance Foundation. Its whole purpose would be simple. Find people who got knocked down by life and help them stand back up. Training. Support. Small checks. When a small check meant surviving another month. Connections to companies willing to look past gaps. I called Mr. Hale to tell him, you took 1 second chance, he said, and turned it into hundreds. I am proud of you, Caleb. A few weeks later, the foundation got a $5 million anonymous donation. The note attached was short. For recognizing worth when others couldn't. I did not need a name, I knew. Now, every morning when I slide on my watch and feel my wedding ring on my finger, I remember where it started. A cold pawn shop. $45. Little girl asking if we were going to be okay. I walk into boardrooms and argue for people who will never know my name. I sit in interviews with candidates who stumble over their stories because they are sure their mess disqualifies them. I tell them what I had to learn the hard way. Your worst years do not erase your best work. Your gaps do not erase your worth. Your story is not over just because someone else's system says it is. At night, I go home to a house that is warm. Emma does her homework at the table. She is taller now, stronger. Her laugh is light. She sleeps without coughing. Sometimes she comes into my office, looks at the framed pawn shop receipt I keep on the wall, and rolls her eyes. "You're so dramatic, Daddy," she says. "Maybe," I say, "but this is where everything changed." Some days I still think about that first moment, my ring on the counter, my pride on life support. The feeling that I had reached the end of the line. Then one man refused to look at me as scrap. He saw more. He asked, "What would you do if someone gave you a real chance?" Now I spend my life asking other people the same thing. And every time someone looks up, scared and hopeful and not sure they deserve it, I see myself across that counter, selling the last piece of my old life for a few bills. I get to be the voice that says, "No, this is not where your story ends." Because mine didn't.